Hey guys, StatKing back with another edition of Dark Power. We're going to be reviewing this week's episodes of AEW Dark and NWA Power, as we always do. Starting with AEW Dark, the episode actually started with a tribute to the Memphis Legends of Wrestling. The episode emanated from Memphis. It was before the Bash on the Beach episode of AEW, and I liked that this episode started with a tribute. You got to see a lot of old faces, old names that the crowd really knew. A lot of the crowd really knew and loved, and that was awesome to see. You have a wealth of wrestling when it comes coming out of Memphis. A lot of times you only think about or hear about Jerry Lawler, but to remember that people like the Poffo family had spent a lot of time there. Macho Man, Lanny. It's you realize that there's a lot more than just what may than just scratching the surface. And I really liked that AEW was highlighting that. It's yet again that they're highlighting the Rock and Roll Express, which I think is really nice of them. You have Rock and Roll, who are conveniently on another show that I review, NWA Power, but it's nice to see them moving around to another promotion. They haven't really done any in-ring work for AEW. I don't think they necessarily will, but it's nice to see them because AEW has that focus on tag team wrestling, and the Rock and Roll Express are a hallmark of tag team wrestling. So moving to the actual matches of AEW Dark, it started with Darby Allin versus Brandon Cutler. This was a good match. It was kind of a tune-up match for Darby, who would be taking on Pac in broadcast time the very next day. But it was a great way to kind of a nice tune-up match for Darby. But I think here, interestingly enough, the story is more about Brandon Cutler. Cutler is continuing to have losses, continuing to face setbacks. If you've noticed on an episode of BTE, it seemed as though he wasn't there for the filming, or he just showed up late at the end of an episode, something to that effect. They haven't really teased that he is potentially interested in the Dark Order, but I think that when the Dark Order attacked the Elite, I forget which episode it was of Dark, now that there have been so many, there were three people who had purple masks. Everybody else had green masks, save for Evil Uno. Two of the purple masks have been revealed to have been Silver and Reynolds. The third purple mask has not been, and to me it looked conspicuously like Brandon Cutler, because we know that Michael Nakazawa has not joined. It's been teased that he's going to join. It's showing that they're recruiting him, they're interested in him, but nothing has come to fruition because of that. But it may be that third person in that mask was Brandon Cutler. That's my thought thus far. So I think it's interesting that they continue to highlight that Cutler is getting frustrated with taking loss after loss. The next match, or at least the next match we were supposed to get, is Shayna versus Nyla Rose. This match doesn't start. Nyla Rose is coming out. Shayna attacks her from behind. Lest we forget, Shayna was put through a table not too long ago, towards the end of last year, by Nyla Rose. That's the part of the reason why that AEW suspended Nyla Rose for the rest of the year. And now that Nyla Rose is back in competition, Shayna seems really eager to get her hands on her. So she attacks Nyla from behind as Nyla's walking down the ramp for their match, and then eventually is able to put Nyla through a table. She sets the table up. I think it was Nyla actually who set the table up, but Shayna tries to use it to her advantage to get her through the table. She has some difficulty. Nyla gets her back into the ring. Shayna nails her, teetering on the edge, holding onto the rope, teetering on the edge. Shayna comes off a rebound off the ropes, puts the two of them through the table. Referees and security has to separate the two of them. Match never starts. Backstage, Shayna's doing a promo about how she's fed up with everything that Nyla has done. Nyla attacks her from behind again. It's kind of funny. The interviewer asks Nyla, what do you think you're doing? And not to which Nyla quips, whatever I want. And she puts Shayna through another table. So this is a storyline that's going to continue between Shayna and Nyla, and I think that this is a good kind of a feud for Nyla because it keeps her it keeps her involved. It keeps her in the mix. She doesn't have to necessarily go after the title as of yet, which I think is good because it's giving more space to the kind of congested title scene that's happening. I mean, you have Riho, you have Chris Statlander, you have Britt Baker, you have Hikaru Shida, you have whatever's going on with the Nightmare Collective, which God forbid I really hope kind of ends soon. I didn't think that's something I would say because Brandy Rhodes is pretty good on the mic when it comes to promos, or at least has the ability to hold a crowd well, but I mean it's just not working. So I hope that aspect of it kind of ends quickly, but at the same time, that's a lot of people. And for Nyla Rose to be able to interject herself in there when you already have somebody, a big bruiser like Awesome Kong, somehow in the mix, that's going to be interesting. That's interesting to pull off. It's difficult to pull off. So I like that they have something for her to do outside of that title scene, and you have something for Shayna to do, and Shayna to kind of get acclimated to AEW crowds. This is a match that I could see being on a pay-per-view card, or Revolution maybe. You have a tables match between the two. I think that they've scheduled a match between the two of them for AEW Dark next week, but we'll see what happens. But it's something that I could see continue all the way through February maybe, and get to Revolution. We're only halfway through January, so there's still some time. There's still ways to elongate it, build the storyline a little bit further, add some more nuance to it, add a little bit more flavor. But we'll see what happens. And I just, for the record, can anybody tell me what is the intent of the Nightmare Collective? What does Brandy want? That's what I don't understand. Because is it just to cause havoc? Is it just to recruit people? And if to recruit people to what purpose? You want to get people for a purpose. Is it for the title? Because it doesn't seem as though she's going after Riho. She was helping Riho retain the title against Statlander. You would kind of want to help, if you're trying to recruit Statlander plus get the title, you would want to help Statlander against Riho, and then maybe see if that'll convince Statlander to join your cause. So I'm not sure the strategy behind it as of yet. The optics of it are okay. Like, there's nothing wrong with the 8 million ways to die. She's one intro for Kong. The hair aspect of it, Brandy as always looks amazing. So there's like that part of it looks okay. But once you start digging a little bit deeper, you kind of want to figure out what is going on behind the Nightmare Collective. What's the intent? And I think if they can do kind of a reveal with Brandy, that would be really good. I think that's something that could be useful for Dark as well, because you're helping to push Dark numbers on YouTube, which congratulations, speaking of which, to AEW for getting the extension with TNT. They're going to be getting another show on TNT. From what I understand, it could be Dark, or will be Dark, extended and turned into an actual show. More about that at the end of the recap, but moving onwards, for now, we're going to get to Shawn Spears and Peter Avalon versus the Gun Club. This is a match that kind of gives you what you expect, what you're looking for. There's really not too much to write about this match. It's exactly what you want. You want to see Shawn Spears in a big spot. You want to see if you're going to see Billy Gunn, you want to be able to see him putting over future talent, and in this case, it's working over well because it's putting over his son. The right person takes the pin, which is Peter Avalon. You're protecting Shawn Spears, and the right person makes the pin, which is Austin Gunn. You don't necessarily need to give Billy Gunn a win. He can get a win in AEW, but the visual that you want, speaking about visuals when it comes to Nightmare Collective, the visual that you want is for Austin Gunn to be the one making the pin, because that helps to stick in people's memory. When they think about, oh, who's that Austin Gunn guy? He's the guy who won in that tag match. He was with his dad. So that was well done on their part. AEW's been really good at getting the visual stuff over the way they need to. So moving on to NWA Power. This is a pretty good episode of Power. I enjoyed it. It starts off with a Rock and Roll Express promo about the 6-man tag match that's going to be the main event. Strong promo from Morton. I did get a little distracted though because Gibson had a weird shirt on. Morton's talking about the the integrity of the crowd, the integrity of the Rock and Roll Express, and the integrity of all this. He's talking about that dedication, that camaraderie that they have with the crowd, that they are like the crowd. They are working men. They are just as the working men and women in the crowd. They know their struggles because they have the same struggles. And it's kind of, if you notice, I've tried to avoid using an obvious word, which is loyalty. They're talking about the loyalty of the crowd to the Rock and Roll Express because the Rock and Roll Express gives them loyalty. And while Ricky Morton is saying all of this, Gibson has a shirt on that says, loyalty is a hoax. So that seemed a little weird because I'm never going to expect a Rock and Roll Express turning on each other. I'm just not. So I don't understand the shirt. And if he was going to turn on him, I don't think he'd be wearing a shirt that says loyalty is a hoax. That would be a little too obvious. No person turning heel is that stupid. But anyway, they reveal the brackets for NWA Hard Times, the TV title tournament, which is Storm versus Dawson, Starks versus an open spot, Zicky Dice versus an open spot, and Question Mark versus the winner of Murdoch or Latimer. So this is interesting. Whoever wins the TV title is going to have won 3 matches in one night, something that they definitely did tout. I don't know who those open spots would be. With the recent news that Marty Scurll has re-signed with Ring of Honor and has been made the head booker, I've been thinking that the feud between Marty Scurll and Nick Aldis is going to be nice, long. They're going to be able to get into the weeds with it. I think Marty knows how to... I mean, we haven't really seen... So I don't know if I should say I think Marty knows how to, but I think that Marty has seen how to book a long feud. And this isn't really even a long feud. I mean, you have Gato in New Japan booking feuds that take years to pay off, right? This is not going to be that. I think this is going to be 6 months to 8 months at best, right? But Gato has a lot of experience when it comes to that too. When it comes to building a story from coming out of Wrestle Kingdom, building towards Dominion, out of Wrestle Kingdom, building towards the October paper, King of Pro Wrestling, to kind of give you that idea that who's going to be challenging King of Pro Wrestling. You maybe kind of can see that building coming out of Wrestle Kingdom. You see how that person does in the G1 when if they pin the champion in the G1. That's how they get that match at King of Pro Wrestling. So you know that Gato has experience with that, and you know that Marty's been observing that. Marty's also been observing what not to do when it comes to some of the recent bookings in Ring of Honor. So you know that he has a wealth of, not experience, but other people's experience of observations to go off of. And that's why when they, not during this episode, but later in the week, announced that it's going to be Flip Gordon versus Nick Aldis at the pay-per-view, you see how it makes sense. Flip Gordon is a member of Villain Enterprises. And they're going to have a recap later in this episode of the Ring of Honor invasion that Nick Aldis does. And that ties into who these open slots are. I think one of them, at the very least, is going to be a Ring of Honor person. I think maybe both. That might be giving a little too much when they could be using the open spots to help introduce somebody to the roster that isn't currently on the roster and is currently on the independent circuit, which they've done very well when it comes to this tournament. This tournament has kind of been something that Trevor Murdoch was able to sink his teeth into. This tournament is definitely something that Zicky Dice was able to sink his teeth into and work to get over with the crowd. So I think that the open spot, I think one of them should go to a Ring of Honor person, maybe even another person from the Villain Enterprises, maybe Brody King, maybe PCO. Maybe Brody King over PCO, but I think PCO still has the Ring of Honor World title. So that might be a little weird to have the Ring of Honor World Champion in this kind of tournament. But, I mean, stranger things have happened. This is wrestling that we're talking about. But I think that the TV title tournament final match should be the main event of the pay-per-view. And that kind of makes sense when you look at how NWA has booked this. There's really no reason for Flip Gordon to face Nick Aldis. It's just a random match that's kind of announced. But it's also not a title match, so there's no need for it to be the final match of the card. You could have it be a mid-match on the pay-per-view, and that helps, as you're building the audience through taking them through the story of the pay-per-view, and that build within the pay-per-view itself. A high moment can be the Nick Aldis versus Flip Gordon match, and that'll help propel those storylines along further when it comes to what's going on between Marty and Aldis. Okay, so long-winded bit about the TV title tournament, but moving onwards, we have a back and forth promo between Zicky Dice and Ricky Starks. Really good. Ricky is phenomenal on the mic. He is phenomenal when it comes to working his way into promo. Zicky Dice, if I remember right, has been trained by Seth Rollins. He's not too shabby either. They transition from that to Dawson versus Dawson. And if you were wondering whether Dawson would win, the answer is yes. Dawson won a Dawson versus Dawson match. Zane Dawson picks up the win, even though the brother was willing to go after Zane's injured hand. His hand's in the cast. He still manages to pull the win out, though. They have a nice little bit talking about whether or not the going after the cast and kind of forcing that injury on the arm is the hand and wrist is going to maybe not allow Zane Dawson to be medically able to compete for the TV title tournament. We'll have to see. I mean, I think he's, as I said earlier, he has the match against Tim Storm. So I don't know if that's really. I mean, you can give Tim Storm the bye. Does Tim Storm really need the bye? Not really, but it'll work if you want to kind of keep Tim Storm as fresh as possible to give Tim Storm an overall deep run in the tournament itself. I'm not sure who I would pick, actually, going back to the tournament for a second, for the winner. I would want to say maybe Ricky Starks. A part of me really wants it to be Zicky Dice, because I think having a heel as the champion to bring the belt back is good. However, that would put all of the men's singles titles on heels, and the women's title would be on a face, and the tag title would be on a face, and I don't know if that feels good. Maybe that's overthinking it. Maybe that's the internet wrestling community member that I am coming out and saying, well, if all these heels have the titles, whether it works or not. But that'll be interesting to see. I'll think about it next week before before we get into the pay-per-view. I'll give you my predictions. All right, so next, there's a video recapping Ken Anderson and Colt Cabana, the stuff that's going on between them. As you may remember, the issues here are that Ken Anderson caused a disqualification that made them lose last week. So what's going on between the two partners? Colt's still trying to make it work with Ken Anderson. Ken Anderson's not making it easy, though. So now we have Vox versus Melina, Ashley Vox versus Melina. This is a straightforward match. It's just to kind of show that Melina still got it. This is her first singles match, really, with the NWA since coming to the NWA. So she picks up the win. She has a promo after the match calling out Allison Kay. Allison Kay comes out, and Allison Kay keeps being ready for a match. Melina keeps kind of working her way around the match and says that Allison Kay should be ready for next week. I think next week she's going to face. I think she'll face either Marty Bell or Thunder Rosa. So now there's a recap of that Ring of Honor invasion that I alluded to earlier. And they move up to a promo with Pope. He's got Homicide and Kingston. He starts talking to Question Mark and Aaron Stevens about the tag titles, saying that you got to beat Homicide and Kingston before you can kind of go after Rock and Roll Express. Question Mark and Aaron Stevens come out, and Question Mark and Aaron Stevens pick up the win. They're focused on Homicide's shoulder that hasn't fully healed from Into the Fire. Question Mark is not really in this match for a long period of time. He comes in to nail 2 Mongrovian spikes, and then a win. And after that match, Pope kind of abandons Homicide and Kingston. Eddie who's checking on Homicide's shoulder. I'm not sure what exactly they're doing with how they're moving Homicide and Kingston forward, but I think that they will be really important to the tag team scene in the future of this year, because there are a lot of NWA is kind of top heavy in that you have your Eli Drakes, your Ken Andersons, your Colt Cabanas, Tim Storm, James Storm, Nick Aldis, the list goes on and on. So you have these big names, and if Aldis is going to be busy with bigger things, that leaves some of these guys to go after the tag titles, because despite the fact that you're going to have now another singles title, there's only so much time to go around in a 1 hour show. So I think that Homicide and Kingston will be important. They'll be kind of gatekeepers of the tag team division, and that'll be that's a good spot for them. Next, you have Strictly Business and Scott Steiner out. I'm not gonna lie, this is kind of where I was apprehensive. As you may remember from last week, I was not too thrilled about Scott Steiner coming back. But despite all this giving Steiner microphone, it wasn't that bad of a promo considering what it could have been. This is the man who demonstrated great math skills previously. But this time around, he keeps it kind of simple. He did only say that in the crowd were white trash and rednecks, and watching at home were white trash and rednecks, and they bleeped out white trash. And I'm not white, nor am I a redneck, but I guess I don't know why Scott thought that's the only people that were watching NWA Power, but that's neither here nor there. I'm not sure why they bleeped white trash out, but I mean, maybe it's like, you can see him say it. If you read the lips, you can see him say it. It's not as though they're bleeping out anything really terrible, and it's not as though bleeping it out when you can still read his lips makes you think as though he was alluding to something that he's not alluding to. So, or saying something that he's not saying. So I'm not sure generally why they bleeped it out. It didn't really, like a too hot for TV kind of thing. Didn't really do anything there. I will say shout out to Wade Barrett for telling the greatest bold-faced lie in the history of probably a while of wrestling, when he said that right after the promo, he said that he could listen to Scott Steiner do that for a week. No, you really couldn't. But I appreciate the fact that you're sticking with kayfabe, that you're the heel announcer. As it turns out, Eli Drake and Tim Storm are the partners. All right, now we have a really in-depth storyline and craziness being told here of two former Impact Tag Team Champions, of Scott Steiner and Eli Drake. Now, on opposing sides. Absolutely, no. There's no relevance whatsoever. But it is relevant in that that's the last time that I think Scott Steiner had a role on any major promotion, was working with Eli Drake as the Tag Team Champions in Impact. But Steiner's in this match for as little as needed, which is very nice. I think he hits a couple chops. It was a belly-to-belly suplex, 2 chops, a belly-to-belly suplex, and then later in the match, he has a kick, a punch, an overhead belly-to-belly, and I want to say another chop. And that's really about it. So it's not too much, which was one of my concerns last week. It's that you have somebody who clearly can't move as fast as he used to be able to, or as quick with the same reflexes as he used to be able to, doing moves to people that could seriously hurt them. And so luckily the only moves that could have hurt them were 2 belly-to-belly suplexes, one's an overhead throw, one's a regular belly-to-belly, but he pulled them off fine. I didn't see anything too crazy, which was good. They used him the way they should, and the proper team won the day, as it should. Eli Drake helps Gibson, who then uses a roll-up to win the match. And now that means that Ricky Morton now gets his one-on-one match against Nick Aldis. So, what does all this kind of mean? I think that NWA Power is building very well towards hard times. They've set up their matches, with the exception of that Flip Gordon match with Aldis. Everything has a rhyme or reason for existing. I'm going to find it interesting to see what happens with Allison Kay and the women's title. Like I said, I think she's going to face either Marty Bell or Thunder Rosa. We'll see which one of the case may be. But I think that maybe we'll have because they had the six woman match previously. So what could they do for Allison Kay outside of giving her the title match with Melina? Or, giving Melina the title match against Allison Kay. I'm not sure, but I'm going to be interested to see how this all shakes out, because where do they go from here with the booking? They still have to announce what that match will be. Or do they not announce the match and save the women's title scene for after Hard Times? That'll be something to pay attention to. But everything else seems to be pretty well. We don't know. I don't think they've announced a tag team match either. Maybe we'll get a tag team title match. Maybe we'll get some kind of announcement about that. But there doesn't seem to be anybody who's really in position to face the Rock and Roll Express, who are kind of focused on all this. So there's a lot of questions, but there's been a lot of answers. And so thus far, I kind of want to trust Billy Corgan and the NWA, Dave Lagana, and the NWA creative team. They seem to have made pretty solid decisions outside of a few missteps, but they've kind of earned that benefit of the doubt after a couple months. So we'll see what happens with them. But now, moving back to AEW with Dark. I'm not sure how I feel about Dark being expanded to a show that's going to stream or be on TV regularly. I think that having those Dark matches not be televised is good. So obviously there are more people that watch Dynamite than Dark. And the people who are watching Dark are the people like you and I, my lovely viewing audience, who are the hardcore wrestling fans. We're more willing to forgive botches, mistakes, issues with production, issues with commentary as they have people do guest commentary. We're more willing to forgive that kind of stuff than a casual viewing audience person. So I'm interested in seeing how they kind of raise Dark up to a Dynamite level. And if that's the case, of Dark kind of being the matches, then having it's a similar thing to having NXT go from being taped to live. It's more difficult to give people exposure. You can have somebody who is able to have matches that are just for the crowds better when it's being taped as opposed to being live. You are introducing people who, for squash matches, when it's being taped, that people may not be paying attention to as much. You can change names more easily. There's just a wide variety of things that sometimes are easier when it's taped. I mean, there are plenty of times where we've heard interviews from people who were on SmackDown when SmackDown used to be taped that said that there were, better aspects of the taped aspect to it. Also, dark matches in AEW have been used to push forward storylines, but they've also been used to get people over with crowds, audiences, and people through Dark. If you are now forcing those people to do that in front of a larger and larger audience, you're kind of hurting their ability to organically get themselves over. But we'll see how all of that shakes out. It'll be something to look forward to. Maybe it'll change the broadcast time for AEW Dark, and that might move it to a different day. But we'll see what happens with AEW Dark and with NWA Power. And for that, you guys will have to join me next week as we continue on this journey together. Thanks, guys.